or call it winter, which being full of care, makes summer's welcome thrice more wished, more rare. That is from Shakespeare's Sonnet 56, and I believe we are now on the 21st edition of the newsletter, something like that. So that's impressive. Especially impressive for you if you stuck around for that long. So thank you. Anyways, our painting of the month is seasonal. It's called Blow, Blow, Thou Winter Wind from a famous painter, John Everett Millais. And I think that's how you say his last name, Millais. It has a very melancholic, slushy snow kind of feel to it. I don't know. I feel like sometimes a lot of winter paintings idealize winter. This painting does not. It's kind of a very accurate depiction of what winter looks like. The sky is overcast and dark. The snow is slushy and everything's brown and ugly colors. It's very washed out. The contrast is low. Anyways, I like it. Very March feeling for me. Anyways, John Everett Millais, famous English painter from the 19th century. He was famous because he made that depiction or the painting of Ophelia, the pre-Raphaelite style. I'll put it up on the screen. Almost everyone's seen it. And he was actually a prodigy, entered the Royal Academy at age 11. So super impressive. Towards the end of his career, last 20 years, he went back to painting landscapes. And this one he made only 4 years before his death. The Blow, Blow, Thou Winter Wind. And so yeah. Also, surprisingly, he was very successful as a book illustrator and made illustrations for Anthony Trollope. So, weird little small world connection there. The poem this month is God's Grandeur by Gerard Manley Hopkins. A really good poem. Not seasonal, really. Doesn't really have much to do with March. I guess kind of like springtime, a little bit. And I think I have this one memorized, so I'll close my eyes and try to give it a go. The world is charged with the grandeur of God. It will flame out like shining from shook foil. It gathers to a greatness like the ooze of oil crushed. Why do men then now not wreck his rod? Generations have trod, and all is steered with trade. Bleared, smeared with toil, and wears man's smudge and shares man's smell. The soil is bare now, nor can foot feel, being shod. And yet for all this, nature is never spent. There lives the dearest freshness, deep down things. And though the last lights off the black west went, oh, morning at the brown brink eastward springs, because the Holy Ghost over the bent world broods with warm breast and with bright wings. Yeah, I love that poem. It's great. Worth memorizing, for sure. Okay, quote of the month comes from my boy, Clive Staples Lewis. C.S. Lewis. He writes, "To be happy at home," said Johnson, "is the end of all human endeavor. As long as we are thinking only of natural values, we must say that the sun looks down on nothing half so good as a household laughing together over a meal, or two friends talking over a pint of beer, or a man alone reading a book that interests him, and that all economics, politics, laws, armies, and institutions, save insofar as they prolong and multiply such scenes, are a mere ploughing up the sand and sowing the ocean, a meaningless vanity and a vexation of spirit." Etymology of the month, okay? Super interesting one. Okay, so in English, when we want to say that something is small or a small version of something, we can attach something called a diminutive suffix to the end of that word. So, for example, a pig is like a full-size pig, but a piglet is like a little pig. Or a statue is like a full-sized statue, but a statuette is like a little statue, right? So it's called a diminutive suffix. And lots of languages have their own diminutive suffix. Okay, so in Latin, the diminutive suffix is ulus, U-L-U-S. So if you wanted to say like a small human, a human is homo, small, ulus, so homunculus is like a small human. Another example is muscle, okay? So when the Romans saw a flexed bicep, they thought that it looked like a little mouse sleeping underneath the skin. So therefore, mus plus culus, mus is mouse, culus is little, musculus, muscle, comes from little mouse in the bicep under the skin. So really strange etymology. Also, weirdly, Greek has the same etymology. Okay, M-Y-S, mis, means both mouse and muscle. So what are the odds? Anyways, pretty random, cool. etymological tidbit. We are also on chapter 10 of the Treasure Valley book that I'm serializing. This chapter, A Land of Hungry Sorcerers. If you've been keeping up with the book so far, not many of you have, but if you have been, it's payoff chapter, okay? Because the lid, what am I trying to say? The whole lid's getting blown off. The characters uncover something underneath the Nematon that exposes the entire thing as a fraud, basically. Anyways, enough about that. Book recommendation of the month. Okay, don't crucify me. It's more Shakespeare, but I can justify it. Okay, so beauty has both an objective and a subjective element, right? If you tell me I don't really like Radiohead, well, I'll tell you, that's okay. To each their own. You can have your opinion. However, if you say, I don't like Milton, you're wrong. If you say, I don't like Dickens, you're wrong. If you say, Beethoven, not my favorite, you're wrong. Because beauty is not only subjective, it's objective as well. And objectively, those 3 or 4 people I just named are masters. So the same goes for Shakespeare. Okay, if you don't like Shakespeare, because maybe you find the cultural references to be obscure or the language is difficult, those are issues, not ishmees. Wait, that doesn't make sense. I'm not Shakespeare. The issue is with you, not with Shakespeare, okay? Shakespeare didn't know that there was going to be smartphones and Gen Z slang, okay? Or else he maybe would have written in that. So you have to do the work to study, to understand Shakespeare's language, and the rewards will be great. So yeah, everyone should start with Hamlet, okay? Hamlet's like the most famous basic Shakespeare play. Not basic in the sense of like simple, but like it's just like the most foundational, I guess. But once you've read Hamlet, then you can move on to Taming of the Shrew, which is my recommendation for you this month. It's a comedy, okay? So aside from being very funny, the plot is easy to handle, okay? There's not 10 different people, different storylines converging at the end. It's pretty straightforward. So, yeah, definitely recommend Taming of the Shrew. Also, I put a picture of it in the newsletter. There's a great adaptation of this by Franco Zeffirelli, Italian film director. He did a few Shakespeare plays. I believe he did Romeo and Juliet, which he was very famous for. And then he did also, I think it's Hamlet. And then he maybe did Othello as well. But yeah, all his adaptations are kind of like true to the era. They pull almost exclusively from the text. It's like word line for line. The casting and the set design and the costuming is all really good. So yeah, that's your reward once you finish reading it. Or what you could do, I don't know, I wouldn't recommend this for a first read through. I would say read through it first, but then once you watch it, have your book ready and you can like follow along in the book what's going on in the movie. I find that very helpful. Okay, music recommendation. So we are going over another very famous piece today, and that is, I think I'm saying his name right, Bruch. He's German, I believe. His very first violin concerto went massively viral in his life. 1866 it was released, but it later became the bane of his career, right? This is the problem with artists that kind of like peak really early in their career, is they spend the rest of their career like trying to like push the rest of their art and like justify like, hey, like I still got it, you know? I wasn't just a flash in the pan. Now when this happens to an author or a composer posthumously, they're dead, okay? So their body of work can vindicate them, but if they're still alive, they have to like constantly push to like exceed what they've already done, and it's like it's a terrible psychological torture. So the problem with Bruch is that everyone loved his first concerto. He wrote tons of things, but he wrote 2 more violin concertos, number 2 and number 3, and no one liked it as much as his first one, and he got so mad about that. So there was this one time he was visiting Naples, and so local violinists stood on the corner opposite to his hotel room, like saluting him, and he's like a local celebrity, or not a local, like an international celebrity, at least in the music community. And he's sitting in his hotel room, like looking down on these people that are like there to like support him and like salute him, and he gets quoted as complaining, "On the corner of the Via Toledo, they stand there, ready to break out with my first violin concerto as soon as I allow myself to be seen. They can all go to the devil, as if I had not written other equally good concertos." So he's just really hoping that people appreciate his number 2 and number 3, not just number 1. So yeah, and also funny, but sad. He never really benefited financially from his success. So this is like during World War One, right? So Germany is like crazy unstable. So like the publishers are unable to, they're reputable, but they're unable to enforce royalty payments. And so he never really sees any money from his popular concertos. He then double sells this score. He sells it again to this piano duet in America. And he's like, okay, this is the plan. You're going to distribute and sell the score. I'll give you a cut, but like you send me most of the money. He never saw a cent. Not because they were scamming him. I just don't think they ever published it. So yeah, there's a link. Go listen to it. Lastly, this is the writing tip or creative tip of the month. And I recently finished reading Stephen King's On Writing. Okay, it's a pretty good memoir / advice to young writers. And one of the things he talks about is regular schedule. So he writes, your job is to make sure the muse knows where you're going to be every day from 9 till noon or 7 till 3. If he does know, I assure you that sooner or later he'll start showing up. So I also have another quote here from Vincent Gallo, who's a famous filmmaker. He said, I never really had a career. I'm just a working class guy. I've never considered myself an artist. I'm no different from a factory worker. So in order for a creative person to become successful in their craft, they can't think of themselves or conceptualize their process as like a spontaneous visionary. And they just like do it sporadically. It doesn't work that way. If you want to like have a lasting career, you have to treat yourself like a blue collar worker, right? You just show up every day at 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. 8 p.m. I guess 8 a.m. every day, and just keep putting in the reps. Alex Hormozy, the famous business guru online, he has a very similar idea. He says, do so much volume that it'd be unreasonable to fail. Not that I particularly watch Alex Hormozy, but that's a really good piece of advice there. Do so much volume, it'd be unreasonable to fail. A few more quotes with the same idea. From Picasso, he says, inspiration exists, but it has to find you working. William Faulkner says, I only write when I'm in the mood. Fortunately, I'm in the mood every morning at 9 o'clock. And then again, Stephen King, amateurs sit and wait for inspiration. The rest of us just get up and go to work. So yeah, thanks again for tuning in, for reading, for subscribing. The link for the newsletter will be in the description. See you next month.